Hi chickens. I'm on a little evening walk, and it's one of those constitutionals where you just know that you need to get away. You know that you need to get out of your environment. You know that you are perceiving things through kind of a skewed lens, and you just need to go out into the great outdoors and really feel your heart chakra expand and start taking in that fresh air. And you just know that when you do that, your perspective will be regained, you know? And so it's really you shamanically treating yourself with that constitutional, with that walk that you so need. And you can tell when you're really getting tangled up in something, when your perspective is really skewed and slanted on its axis, and you feel resentment or you feel really conflicted emotions about certain people whom you really love and whom you don't want to blame, you know, for the way that you're feeling. When you feel just kind of this torrid well of unresolved stuff come up in you, and you know that you might be in danger of directing it towards the wrong person or seeing things in a way that really isn't in alignment with what's true, then going out for a walk can really help. When you open up that door and you just step out into the great outside where there are no walls hemming you in and there's no tension, and that weird kind of mix of different vibrations isn't doing its work to confuse you and drag you down. And so really the first thing I want to say to you is, if you know that you really need to get out, you know, just for a walk, do so. Go and do it. Give yourself that shamanic prescription, you know, take yourself out of the environment before you make any decision, before you say anything to anyone, before you know, choose which side of the line you're on. Go for a walk. Whew. And just start to separate what's yours from what's somebody else's. This is some work that I've noticed people doing lately in my own life and clients coming to and doing. And it's such valuable work, and it's basically the work of separating what's yours from what belongs to somebody else. And sometimes we are just doing anger that belongs to somebody else, or we're doing worry that belongs to somebody else, you know, and we're taking it on. And sometimes it's because they refuse to take it on and they are really suppressing it in their own psyche, and we see the work that they need to do. And so we actually start to worry on their behalf, or deliberate on their behalf, or get really angry on their behalf. But that's not your stuff to do, you know. You've got to let that stuff go. When you see that somebody has so much to be grateful for, that somebody has so many resources at their disposal, somebody has so much in their life that makes them sincerely privileged, and yet they constantly gripe, they constantly complain, they don't see it like that, you know. And it can be really easy to get frustrated because you see the way that person could just shift their perspective and have such a richer and deeper experience. But you know what? That's not your stuff. That's their stuff, that's their journey. And they have whole layers of feeling, whole layers of shit going on that you don't know about, that you're not privy to, that you can never understand, just by virtue of the fact that you're not in their psyche, you're not running their show, right? You're not in their body, you don't know what it's like to be them. So before you feel quick to resent somebody who seems to be missing the point, or who seems to have not owned, you know, their privilege and not owned their advantage in a situation, I recommend as well, go for a walk, step outside of it, recognise that is not your shit, and that you don't have enough energy to do that shit and focus on your own shit. And now I'm really coming to the crux of what I want to talk about today. Focus on your own shit, you know? And this is like such a wonderful, heady mantra for so many different situations in life. When you recognise that you are looking outside of yourself much too much, when you're comparing yourself to other people much too much, when you're thinking about what you lack and what you're deprived of that they have and that they take for granted, that is you not focusing on your own shit. That is you not bringing it back to, okay, what can I do in the here and now? What can I do to make the situation better for me? How can I bring this back to self? I often talk about bringing things back to self, and that might sound like a very abstract, very woo-woo term to a lot of people, but I mean it with sincerity. It's the work of the warrior is to bring stuff back to self. It's very easy to get wrapped up in pretty much anything that allows you to refrain from bringing stuff back to self, right? Because when you bring stuff back to yourself and what you can do and what you need to take accountability for, that's tough stuff, that's difficult work. Of course people want to shirk that work, of course people don't want any part of that sometimes. So it's the work of the warrior, it's the work of the open heart chakra, it's the brave way. You know, it's the self-aware way of living, to bring stuff back to you, own what is yours and release what is not yours. You cannot do somebody else's anger. You cannot experience somebody else's illumination and then pass it on to them by proxy. They must come to the door themselves and they must walk through it themselves. They've got to own their own shit. They've got to wake up and recognize what it is they've got to be grateful for. You can't go there for them. You know, and you will break yourself against that wall, trying and trying repeatedly to go there on behalf of somebody else, to help them to see, to insist that they see. But don't waste your time. Don't leak your precious lifeblood, your precious energy, your precious prana in doing that. Please bring things back to self, focus on your own shit. And if this is a wake-up call, if this is a permission slip for you right now, then I would urge you to take it very seriously and see it as a sign. You know, Jung said that we have forgotten that God speaks primarily in dreams and visions. God speaks in signs, you know. Synchronicity for me is Godhead. It is Godhead coming into tangibility. So if this is a shard of synchronicity for you right now, then I ask you to honour it and to really go with it and start to reassess, realign, come back to the point of knowing that you want to focus on your own shit, you know, and ask yourself, what is the right action that will allow me to move into closer alignment with that mission of focusing on my own shit? What can I do right now to make that into more of a reality in my life? Notice when you are doing other people's rage, doing other people's pain, you know. My mother always says to me, don't do other people's anger. And I did other people's anger for a really long time, especially when my friends were in shitty relationships, you know. They would come and they would vent to me, and then I would get really angry about the things that their partner had done. And it would allow them to bypass the anger that they should have been feeling. And then they would go back to the partner and the whole, you know, relationship would continue for months or sometimes even years afterwards. That's what I mean by doing somebody else's anger. When you do somebody else's emotion for them, you actually let them off the hook and you actually allow them to delay and stagnate in the good spiritual work that they should be doing, okay? You know, it's letting them off the hook, it's letting them get away scot-free, and therein keeping them playing the small game. If you really love someone, don't do that for them. You know, let them come to the realization on their own, and don't stew, you know, don't let yourself stew and fixate on what somebody else isn't seeing or isn't noticing or isn't doing. And I know that can be really hard, but sometimes, you know, it's just not worth expending that energy. And when you think about the amount more that you could do with that energy if you redirected it in a more conscious way and you brought things back to self, it's sobering to realise how much more that energy could get you on your investment. So don't waste it, you know, I beg of you, don't waste it. Invest that energy where you can and avoid wasting it where possible. Every single person that you come across in this life is a teacher. That is an absolute fact. Every single person you come across is a guru in your life. That is their role, you know, and whether or not they're conscious of it, whether or not they're aware of it, doesn't matter. It's about your perspective on it, you know. If somebody really rubs me up the wrong way and says something that is really hateful and, you know, that really kind of lowers my vibration like 50 layers down, like my vibration is like under the ground, because somebody has said something so ignorant, so hateful, and so in keeping with separation rather than with unity, instantly like they're a bodhisattva to me, because I think, whoa, they've showed up in this time to teach me something that I obviously really need to know. And so has this cherry blossom tree. Oh, look at that, that's beautiful. If my boyfriend was here, he would say, this reminds me of Japan. So pretty. Sometimes somebody in our lives presents us with some kind of mission, but it's not the original mission that we thought it was. Like, you might think that you have to fix somebody, when really your mission is to look deep within yourself to try and see the root cause for why you feel you need to fix that person, you know? Sometimes you think that your role is to teach somebody a lesson, to exact revenge on somebody, to shatter somebody's illusions that you see as desperate and pathetic and actually shake them out, you know, of their crazy fantasy and bring them back to reality. But really, if you were looking at things from that more spiritually aligned perspective and you were bringing things back to self, you would realise that that isn't your responsibility and that it's not your place to do that. Actually, your mission is to see the way that you feel about that person who's really rubbing you up the wrong way as a chance to learn, as a chance to wake up, as a spark of luminosity. And that's what I mean by bringing things back to self. And when you do that, you cause less damage in the world, you cause less pain in the world, and you also open a lot of doors for a lot of other people because you give them the sacred permission to bring things back to self. And when people sit in harsh judgment, and when people spend more time thinking about what someone else is doing than on what they're doing and how they can improve and how they can, come to a greater sense of enlightenment, then actually what they need is signposts that show them it's okay to bring things back to self. It's okay to live a bigger life. It's okay to stop judging others and really go within and do the sacred work that I need to do. And a lot of people don't have many examples of the beauty of that, A lot of people are surrounded by judgment and narcissism and people ripping a strip off of each other and people buried neck deep in toxic comparison. Sometimes somebody will go through their entire day without coming across somebody who's really doing the work of bringing things back to self. So when they come across you, you actually give them permission, You can be the lighthouse, as we so often say. That's what you're doing in that moment, You cannot be the lighthouse from a place of judgment yourself. You can't be the lighthouse from a place of hatred and from a place of tension and from a place of irritability and from a place of nastiness and from a place of cynicism yourself. You can't do that. It doesn't make sense. You've got to hold the energy that you're trying to convince others to hold. You've got to be holding it first. You've got to set that good example. So when I come across people that are just making me feel so shitty and so uptight and so despairing, I think to myself, I've come across a guru here. I need to sit with this. This is a teacher in disguise. Some people like to say that human beings are their assignments, and I think, I'm not sure how I feel about that exact phraseology, but I do think that, these people that make me feel these things, that really challenge my sense of how I feel about human beings, they are teachers in disguise. They are really giving me something worthwhile. They're giving me a great gift, and okay, it feels shitty and it pisses me off, but it's a great gift. Nonetheless, I know that that's what it really is. I know that that's what it really means. Sometimes it's just about checking in with yourself. And I know when I need to just go and be in solitude and when I need to do that work. I know when I need to ground, when I need to find my centre. I know when I am pushing responsibility away from me and shirking it and putting it onto somebody else. I know when I'm blaming somebody else for something that I feel, And when I sense that, when I feel that, and it's hard to sense it through all these layers of ego and these layers of righteousness and these layers of your righteous indignation, when you feel that, it's really hard to connect with self through that. It's really hard. It's like trying to grab somebody's hand through some quicksand or something. It's like you keep missing each other and you're trying so hard to grasp and it's really difficult, but you can do it. And when you do it, when you have that sacred moment where you go, okay, I've just brought it back to self and this is about me. This is not about attacking anyone else. This is not about putting judgment anywhere else but squarely at the door of my own understanding. Then my advice would be get out of the environment as quickly as you can, Go for a walk, really allow yourself, or go be alone, So many people are afraid of solitude, but to me, solitude is how shit gets done, I always say to my clients, always, the big three, stillness, silence, solitude. And when it's really tangled and when you really can't fucking work it out and when it really feels like a lost cause to you, it's time then for the big three, stillness, silence, solitude. Go to it. It will never fail you. It always clears things out. It always turns the water a lot less muddy. Always. You need to give it some time. Sometimes it's not immediate, but if you're patient with it, and if you show up and you give it that sense of belief that if I do this and I go with the big three, things will become clearer. I will gain clarity, I will gain a sense of perspective, I will gain a sense of calm, and I can act from that point. I will be shown the next right action. You know, if you can just give it that little bit of faith, you know, and if you're on any kind of sincere spiritual journey, then I know you know what that's all about. So go to it, give it that little bit of faith, that little bit of patience. And I promise you, the big three do sort a lot of things out just on their own, you know. It's funny, you'll implement the big three, and you'll be there in stillness and silence and solitude, and maybe you've cleared time with a friend or a partner so you can have this stillness and silence and solitude, and you're thinking, right, okay, so the answers are going to come soon, and I'm going to start to realise what I need to do, and the plan of action is going to come together, and, you know, the problem is going to be solved. And actually, sometimes what I find is if I really instigate the big three, I realise that the problem that I thought was a big problem wasn't really that big of a problem. And it doesn't really need an action plan. It doesn't really need a strategy. It was my perspective that was all shades of fucked up. And actually, when I've given myself the silence, the stillness, the solitude, it's not really about creating a game plan from that point. It's actually about realising, you know, everything is as it's supposed to be. I can be like water in this situation. I can be like water in this relationship. I can go with it. Instead of trying to work out how to mould it or change it or push it 3 inches to the left, I can go with it. But it's only once I've had stillness, silence and solitude that I can come to that understanding. So sometimes, you know, the very terrain of what you're trying to deal with changes. And that's a holy moment. That's really marvellous. There's a lot of illumination in that. And there are certain times when that's happened to me, when it's completely changed my perspective on life. It's really, really taught me something. And quite often it's funny because I went to the stillness and the silence and the solitude directly because of how somebody made me feel, how I felt in somebody's presence, how the way something was said made me feel. So even in that way, the people that are around me, the connections that I'm having and the complex nuances of those connections and the tension and the bitter taste that can sometimes be caught up in human interaction, actually in the end leads me to these amazing, profound leaps in my understanding of what life's all about. You know, where sometime down the line I'm doing my silence and stillness and solitude thing, really trying to get the monkey of the memory of some shitty conversation off my back, or some argument, or some passive aggressive word from somebody. And actually what's happened is they've really been a guru for me, because they've taken me to the point of illumination. And then it comes, and then I realise, you know, that I can be like water. That's what we mean by alchemy. That's the true spirit of alchemy. That's an alchemical process, you know. And I have turned base metal into gold using that process many times, and it is truly, truly, the wow factor is unbelievable, you know. It's beyond words, I would argue. Just know that you can choose how to see your challenges. You can select your perspective. You can be more discerning about your perspective. You can be that connoisseur of perspective, you know. You can choose. You can choose to see the person that's pissing you off as a guru. You can choose to see your challenge as an opportunity for growth. You can even choose to see the really shitty part of whatever it is you're going through now as the divine doorway towards that great leap in your spiritual journeying that you've really been hoping for and waiting for. You can see it like that. You can be like, God, this feels really, really intensely fucking bad. Maybe it's the start of something wonderful, because I know it's hard to shed a skin. I know it's hard. Metamorphosis is difficult. It's messy. It's horrible. It feels dangerous. It feels like a breakdown. So if that's how I feel, maybe it's happening. I'm shedding the skin. I'm growing the wings. I'm emerging from the chrysalis. Maybe this is it. Show up. Show up, you know. And don't be scared of the realism of it. You know, don't try and make it into something that it's not. Really just show up and be prepared for wonderful things to happen when you feel like 7 shades of crap. Because so often the darkest moment comes right before dawn for me in my life. You know, it really does. Like, it really does. God, it does. Really, really go to your life now in consciousness, in the grandiosity and the simplicity, that paradox of consciousness where it's so sweeping, it's so overarching, it's so fucking ostentatious, but at the same time it's so basic, it's so simple, it's so the air you breathe, you know, it's so bread and butter, it's so commonplace. Consciousness, that heightened consciousness, that doorway towards being willing to bring stuff back to self. Understand what's yours. What's yours, and what are you doing on somebody else's behalf? How are you maybe meddling in somebody else's affairs or spending a lot of energy judging somebody else for their choices in order to bypass your choices? You know, where are you wasting that energy where you could be spending it on the work that really needs to be done? And yes, the work that really needs to be done is a damn sight harder, but the sooner you get to it, the sooner you're really in it, you know, and you can be in it to win it. Thank you for accompanying me on this constitutional, which really, when the camera started rolling, I was so like in the midst of the feelings that I knew I was trying to process. And it's magical to know that I actually came to some realizations that made me feel so much better while I was on camera talking to you guys. So thank you for being present and being with me, and I'm glad that you've allowed me to be present and be with you, and that it really is the magic of the internet. So I'm off for now. Very, very much love, guys. Blessed be.